highly suggest you do. Charles Green, who was the Angry Grandpa, actually passed away from cancer a few years ago.
Right.
But his son, Michael, works for Paul Heyman. He does like a lot of his graphic design and stuff.
Oh, okay.
And they got a cool YouTube channel. Like, you get to sometimes see these like WWE videos they do. But like, just hearing how Paul Heyman talks, it's almost like you have to think like, is this a character or is this his personality? Because you don't see anything but that personality, that WWE character on everything. So it almost makes me think maybe he's not a character.
Well, they've long stated that Paul, not necessarily on WWE TV, but Paul and his character are very close to the same person.
Yeah, like very business driven.
Right. And, so I forgot who said it. I think it might have actually been Cornette, but he's just like, there's only one way you'll know if Paul's lying to you, and then that's if he's talking to you.
Yeah.
He's saying he's always a liar.
There you go.
Heard a lot of those number of different stories, especially from the ECW guys, where they're like, I just heard something about Bully Ray there. He was talking about an old story with him, Paul Heyman, and he was like, Paul, you told me this. It's like, never mind, you told me this. Never mind. And he's talking to Jericho during this interview. He was like, Jericho, and I was like, yeah, that's when Paul says something like that. So you gotta take it, the way Paul Heyman says it. But it's he's very passionate, which I love.
Oh yeah.
The way he talks, the way he comes up, and with things, and same thing with Vince too. It's a lot of passionate talk, and
I have a feeling what might happen whenever the sad day comes and Mr. Vince McMahon isn't here. I have a feeling he might turn it over to Paul, honestly, but not make it very much aware that Paul is there, because Shane at this point, I haven't heard anything about him being involved in a while. But again, I'm kind of still in the blurred lines thing of what's happened the last few years. But I could totally see Paul kind of taking overhead, but not letting people know that he's the head of it, if that makes sense.
It will probably actually be Triple H would take over.
He has a little more of the
That's true, yeah.
It'll probably be Triple H. But I do believe if Triple H takes over, Paul Heyman would be more involved than he currently is.
Absolutely.
If you wanted to be.
Because, Hunter, man, like, talk about someone who has literally worked his ass off for this company. Like, you think The Undertaker's done it? Which he has, don't get me wrong, but I feel like Hunter is like, he was that spark that they needed years and years and years ago, and he's done everything in his power to make sure that it doesn't fail.
Well, Hunter, one of the things I give him a lot of credit for is he seems to adapt to how everything is.
Oh,
You can kind of tell with how, you don't have the WWE Network currently, but within how NXT's ran, you can definitely see it. Because NXT is basically Triple H's baby. And he picks a lot of the talent, and anyone that's come and worked for Triple H from NXT will not say a bad thing about him. Even with Gallows and Anderson leaving, they have nothing negative to say about Hunter. They're not happy with the company, but they can't say anything bad about him.
And it's interesting too, is to throw that in, it's like there's some talent in NXT that they don't want to move to what they call main roster, Raw, SmackDown. They want to stay to the NXT, and you can see how that is with not only some of their styles, but also that they just like the way it's ran a lot more. I think it's a lot more different, creative, and what was it? You're gonna say his name a lot better than I will.
Tommaso Ciampa?
There you go. Yeah, he thought about it was about a year ago. He would retire if he would have to move to Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah, they said they make me move up. I'm retiring that day.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of respect factors in that stuff, that point.
And William Regal has a lot of say down there.
Yeah, he's got a big mark. Yeah, he's got a big say. Got a lot of creative in there. He's a big part of NXT.
Yeah. And I don't know if you watched TNA at all during that era, but Jeremy Borash is with NXT currently.
JB. I thought it was pretty good announcer, honestly. And he had a good brains for the wrestling business too.
So, and again, because I'm so new to the podcast. I just recently started listening and all that. What was you guys' thoughts on all of the essentially, like, I forget what, again, because my mind's going blank, the day that in 2020 we lost a lot of good talent on the roster.
Oh, man.
Oh, you're talking about the mass exodus. Okay.
Yes.
You want to take this? Oh, okay.
You can go start with it, and I'll just chime in on the end there.
I get tired of the game that WWE tends to play. And what I mean by that is they like to do this thing where, well, for the rumor has it that they're not going to do this anymore because they learned their lesson. But, where they like to essentially hoard talent and like, oh, no, don't go there. We'll give you a bunch more money and then do nothing with you and then fire you out of nowhere. Cause I've, been consistently watching for the most part, for the better part of my life, but you see this happen way too much where they're like, oh, blank to sign a new agreement, and then like a year later, they're part of the cuts. And that was a game that WWE tries to play. And you had people like Gallus and Anderson, Maria Kanellis and Mike Bennett.
Then you have like those like classic referees that you see all the time, like Mike
Chioda. Yeah.
Yeah, like the fact that he got cut, I was like, what? Cause like you just know that face. Like you might not know the name, but when you type in that name, it's like, who's this referee that got fired? And then you like Google his picture and you're like, that guy? He's
right,
like,
yeah.
He's only refereed almost every superstar ever.
Right.
Like he's been a referee since he was like 18. It's
like firing Charles Robinson or,
yeah.
God, what's his name? The one that was, with WWE forever, that was for the Montreal Screwjob. I'm blanking on his name right now. Earl Hebner. Yeah, I don't like the fact that WWE plays that game. And you had all those people that left, all those people that were looking elsewhere and were offered more, good amount of money to work other places. And then they let them go in the midst of a pandemic where it's like, okay, well now you don't get a paycheck at all.
What I understand what I understand about Mr. Hebner, from what I had understood from Bruce.
Well, I just use that example because he.
Oh, so you see, there's a merchandise problem inside.
Well, I was talking about name value. Like you attribute.
Name value.
Yeah, like you fire somebody like Kurt Angle. Like that one, that was another one that got me because it's like he was the guy that John Cena made his debut with. When John Cena debuted, he was against Kurt Angle.
Right.
And like, from what I've heard from a lot of people, Kurt was one of the nicest wrestlers to the fans and to the rest of the staff.
They also let go of Hurricane Helms, who was a backstage producer for years.
Yep.
And it's just, well, now he's back, but I don't know. It's WWE plays this game and I absolutely hate it. I hate it with a passion.
Same, and like another one that I was super like shocked over was Zack Ryder. I was like, granted he's not in the spotlight so much anymore, but that's a name that I remembered being very big because he was the internet champion and like he was the guy that was trying to get WWE more on the social media game. And
Ryder's a perfect example of, because Vince McMahon did this whole thing is you got to grab the brass ring. Okay, well Zack Ryder did it and you punished him.
Yep.
So, it seems like double talk more than anything else from WWE, and I try not to hate them completely because there's a lot of good talent there. Like Kevin Owens is a guy that I follow closely now, and it's one of the characters I really, really like. And so it's not like it's going to go anywhere, and I'm fully aware it's like the NFL. It's not going anywhere. But there's been plenty of things where it's just like, I really wish you behaved better.
Right.
I can understand that you're trying to, not let your talent go anywhere, especially when you have the money, but it's like, the talent actually wants to do something. So it's like you're basically paying someone to sit at home, or they're being used as a jobber a lot of times. Mm-hmm. And, you're trying not to let your talent go to the competition. If you have that money to allow that, I understand. But good business is not let them go. However, on the flip side of it, it's like, if you get a better opportunity somewhere else, hey, go for it. And at one point in time, it was like that. especially back in the 90s, even further back to that. But, you know, I said I can see at one point where it's like you're trying to let it go to the competition. But, and then of course, well, we're having this problem in the world, so we're going to let everybody go. Well, not everybody, but, you know, a mass majority of a lot of talent that, of course, they let go of, Gerald Briscoe. The guy's been for 39 years or what, something, between 37 and 39 years. I'm like, dude, really? I mean, you couldn't even give the guy a little bit of money each week and just say, hey, we'll use it when we need you. So, that's, I mean, so there's things that I can understand, and, you know, obviously there's talents that, you know, how often you're going to use them, and, you know, cutting talent is nothing unusual necessarily, but it's just more or less, I mean, it's a shame that it had to come down the way it was, and of course, you know, can't afford to lose your job, and, you know, especially in times like this, is a little tougher, and, you know, but it's just, it's a shame that a lot of stuff had to come down to what it was. But a lot of people, there's people over the years that were glad to get away too. And I'm sure, you know, it's like there's some of these wrestlers, that got let go, they were okay with it. It's like, hey, I can go do something else and probably make it even more, just as much money. So I think they were okay with that. You know, one of the guys, Heath Slater, he was fine with it.
Yeah, that was another one I was gonna bring up. I was like, he had his time with like Wade Barrett and everybody coming out. He tried to kind of make his own character, and I don't personally think he succeeded in that. Again, back when I'm sure if he was trying to do that, was the kind of time I was only watching every now and again. But I'd really never heard of anything big for that character other than that whole Nexus
you got
thing.
3MB as well.
Oh, that's right. You missed the I Got Kids.
Oh, I Got Kids as well. It's a huge thing there. He had this good.
Oh, yeah. He had a little bit of a thing going around where he was a free agent between the draft between Raw and SmackDown.
Okay, I think I did hear something about that.
And he was trying to get signed, and his whole thing was, I got kids! And yeah, he did this bit where he had like 8 kids, and Rhino was sitting there eating crackers with cheese on it.
Yeah.
In his trailer. Which they became a tag team, and they got over that way.
Yep. So, last SmackDown episode I watched was, I think, like 2-3 weeks ago? Something like that? Can we just talk about that awesome match between Big E defeating Sami Zayn for the, in that Lumberjack match for the Intercontinental? Like, Big E deserved that so much. Like, since they did split up the New Day, I felt like this was kind of his time to make his name known in SmackDown a little more without being part of the New Day anymore. I think that was just such what a match to do it in. Sami Zayn, I get the whole character thing, but I do feel like he was the Intercontinental Champion for a little too long, in my opinion, for the story, because I feel like, though, I'm interested to know what the original storyline was before COVID happened. Like, I have a feeling he wouldn't have been champion for as long as he was if COVID didn't happen and they were still doing the live events everywhere.
He was gone, too. He had
well, yeah, you might be right, but I think they actually kind of, organically created a story with that, though, with him being out, and then he comes back, and there's another Intercontinental Champion, and he had this whole thing why it's a big conspiracy against me. I'm the real Intercontinental Champion. I never lost it, things like that. And he had a great match. I don't remember what pay-per-view it was, but he had a great match at pay-per-view with the ladder match with Jeff Hardy and AJ.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't get to watch that one.
Oh, it's amazing. He handcuffed Jeff Hardy's earlobe to a ladder.
That was in October.
Man, what is going on with the whole handcuff thing lately? Like, what are they trying to do? I mean, you got Jey Uso handcuffing Kevin Owens the other week in that Hell in a Cell match against Reigns when he clearly had it. And then you have Kevin Owens pulling the reverse card on Jey after their match is over.
Yeah, I don't know what the obsession with the handcuffs are, but I just like the Sami Zayn spot. That's all I was getting at.
There's another guy who kind of reminds me of Zack Ryder. I forget his name. He's a newer guy. He goes like, bro. And everything.
Oh, Matt Riddle.
Yes. I'm impressed by him. I forget who he was facing before, SummerSlam, or I forget which pay-per-view it was, but I